There were 3 other teams going for the summit on that day. And of those 4 teams, only one team succeeded in reaching the summit of Everest, and that was my team. And we reached it because there were 3 key ingredients to how we approached that climb, how I approached the leadership of that expedition. I call them my summit secrets. And I'd like to share with you now that journey, the process I went through to learn those summit secrets and then finally be successful and reach the summit of Mount Everest with my team. In my youth, in my early 20s, I was looking for the next big thing in my life, and I saw a slideshow about the first Australians to climb Mount Everest, and I thought, that's what I'm going to do. Like any big project, I had to break that down into achievable chunks. And the first of those chunks was to move back to Sydney, actually, up to the Blue Mountains and learn to rock climb and develop those basic climbing skills, and then to go to New Zealand and transfer those basic rock climbing skills to the alpine environment, and over successive years and successive stages, climb higher mountains, build my altitude experience, my expedition experience, so that I could finally come back to Mount Everest and have a crack at the top of the highest mountain in the world. I was invited to go to an expedition in Pakistan to this mountain called K2. Now it's a little bit ironic, you don't learn how to climb on K2 because it's actually billed as the hardest mountain in the world. But I was prepared to go along because of this chap in the white hat. And his name is Anatoly Bukharev. And at the time, and possibly still to this day, he was the strongest high altitude mountaineer ever. Immensely powerful, and I had met him on Everest in '91, so I knew him and I knew that I'd be really learning from the very best. By 1997, I had been on 6 8,000 metre expeditions and only succeeded on 1. The reality was that my performance was poor. I was allowing waning motivation and distractions like bad weather and running out of food and things like that to take away my motivation and my commitment to succeed and finish these climbs. And I sat back at the beginning of 1997, I thought, you know, this is my whole life. It's my business, it's my career, this is my project. And if I really intend to succeed in this game, I have to be committed. It is called the Mountain of Storms. And it was such a brutal, brutal expedition. It became a war of attrition. The wind blew incessantly and the snowfall that it dumped was metres and metres in a night. We were frequently climbing up the mountain and having to dig down through the snow to find the tops of the tents that we'd put up in our camps. Having been the one who was buried in the avalanche, I was the only person who wanted to keep going. Because from my perspective, yes, that was an obstacle. Getting buried in an avalanche is not fun, but the obstacle had passed. They dug me out, the avalanche had gone. In fact, that was one less avalanche, one less obstacle that we were going to encounter if we kept on going. The only way you're going to summit on a peak like this is to have the resilience to keep coming back in the face of these constant obstacles. Yes, it meant it was more hardship, more pain for a few more days, but at the end of the day, so what? If we gave up at that point, we'd have thrown away all the risks we'd taken to that point, all the money, the time, the effort, just to get to that point will all have been wasted. And if we still wanted to climb the peak another year, we'd have to come back and go through all of that just to get to the point we were already at. So it made perfect sense to stay there and endure just for another couple of days. The reality is that in order to achieve big things, in order to overcome challenge, we have to accept and embrace risk. Because there is risk involved in everything we do. Crossing the road as you came in here this morning was a risk, but you managed it because you looked both ways and waited till the traffic was past. When you bought a coffee this morning, you knew it would be hot, but you managed that by waiting for it to cool before you took that first sip. It's all about risk management. I just had to understand that I needed to manage the risk and accept it, that this was a part of the challenge. Not to become foolhardy, but just to embrace it. The only way I could get back to Everest was as a leader of a commercial group, paying clients coming along. Now as the leader, of course, the expedition was no longer about me. My focus had to be where my responsibilities lay, which was with my team, my clients. The motivations were different, but they're all equally valid. And as the leader, my responsibility was to take this group of individuals from around the world with different languages and different motivations and skills and experience and make them understand that without the synergy of the team, not one of us was going to get to the top, and that included me. My job, of course, as a leader is to remind them of the end goal, why they wanted to come in the first place, how much they'd invested in terms of money, time away from family and work, the effort just to get to this point. Keep them focused on that end goal. And the South Summit is 100 metres from the top of Mount Everest. And it was a beautiful day, everything was going well, the weather was perfect, the team was strong, everything was going so well. The fourth team came up to that point and we said, righto guys, away you go, put in your 200 metres of rope, we're all going to have a great day. Have a guess what they said. We didn't bring the rope. $1 million or more than $1 million worth of expeditions were sentenced to fail at that point because they hadn't brought that rope. So after we threw them off, we then had a chat about what we were going to do. This was the ultimate test of my authenticity as a leader, and whilst I'd been climbing for 15 years and I really believed I was finally going to get to the top, of course I could not go off and leave my team. Having been that close to the top, I turned my team around and the other 3 teams and we came all the way down to base camp. So when I sat my team down, I said, guys, we have enough oxygen, I've catered for another attempt on the top, we should have a crack. They were crying, I can tell you, and I was just about crying myself, crying with exhaustion from having been so high. But they agreed to go back up and have another go, even if we only made it 20 metres up the mountain, because then we would know we'd have given it our best shot. But until we fell over after 20 metres, we had to know, we had to keep going. We wanted that summit. Building trust, building a real belief in each other and a reliance on each other and a desire to see each other succeed. But I can tell you it was so much more rewarding to get up there with the team and to see the team carry through and reach the top of the peak in those circumstances where they'd shown such resilience. After I got to the top of Everest, I'd achieved that goal, but then I thought, well, you know what, that's not actually the end of my dreams. I've ticked that box, it's a step on the ladder to bigger things, what can I do? And it was at that point that I then decided to go off and climb all the 8,000 metre peaks. The end of one adventure, which is essentially the achievement of one project, has always just been the starting point for the next one.